Okay, I am going to review with you for today's quiz. I accidentally recorded this entire video with no sound, so I'm going to try to quickly go through this. Today's quiz is about pseudo-classes in the box model. First thing you need to know about pseudo-classes is that we use them when we're trying to format parts of the page that we want to format them based on their behavior. So one of the things that we can do is we can use the link command, a:\link. That's just going to style the format of the link that isn't in use. And one of the things to remember about that is by default a link is underlined. So if you want to get rid of that, we use text-decoration. We set the value to none. Another command that we can use when we're styling our links is to use the a_visited pseudo-class, and that's just going to style the format of a visited link. Keep in mind that everything in brackets can be colors, fonts, sizes, and a_hover is another one. This will style your link when a user moves a cursor over it. The last pseudo-class that we did was a_active, which will style the link based on the behavior when someone clicks on it. We can change color, size, background color, font, all kinds of different things for our links. When you use pseudo-classes, you need to remember that they must appear in a particular order. They have to appear in the order of link, visited, hover, active. I told you one way to remember it is to think of the words love, hate, LVHA. If you don't do it that way, what ends up happening is commands that you have set for a particular behavior end up overriding the ones that you really want. Okay, the biggest part of what we covered during our material last week was the box model. That is the concept that everything that goes into an HTML file, every HTML tag, has a little box around it. You can't see it unless you make some adjustments to it. So we talked about the different things you can control. One of the things you can control about every HTML element is the background. We have two properties that we learned: background-color and background-image. Background-color is what we use when we're trying to put a solid color behind an item, and background-image is when you're trying to put some sort of digital image. That one's a little more complicated. You do background-image, :URL, and then in parentheses you have to put the name of the picture. But that's how you add the background. We have other properties that you can control when you're dealing with the box model in CSS. And one of the ones that's really important is the margin. That's the one that's going to give you your extra space around items. Extra space between items on a web page. Very simple. Margin : set the value to something in pixels. It will apply it to all sides. If you need to do a specific one, you can do that too. Margin - top, bottom, left, right. And we also learned the shorthand version where you do margin : and then you have 4 separate values separated with spaces in between. And just remember, that's clockwise. Top, right, bottom, left. The next property that we covered was padding. Padding is very similar to margin, except instead of putting the extra space between elements, it's going to put extra space around elements, but inside a box. Padding : we set it to pixels. Same way we do the margin. You can also specify a particular side if you'd like to. You can also use that shorthand version, just like we did with margin. Okay, and then we have the last thing we can control, which is the border. This one's going to take 3 different values. The first value that shows up is always going to be something measured in pixels. That's the size, how thick that border will be. The second value is the style. We have several different options. You'll see them listed on the screen. And then the third option after a space is going to be your color that you want for it. So in our notes, I had an example. If we wanted to add a border to a picture, I have IMG. And then in my declaration block, a border : 5-pixel double blue. That would give me a double-lined 5-pixel thick blue border. Okay, when we're dealing with a box model, you can also control the size of it. If you don't, it will be just automatically adjusted. You do this with either the width property or the height property. You set your value in pixels. The thing to remember is do not do both. It will distort it. Okay, then we had the concept of block level and inline level boxes. Block level is where it will automatically give a break above and below an element, so that element will take up the entire width of a page. Perfect example of that is the H1 tag. We also have the LI tag if you're doing a bulleted or numbered list, or the P tag or the div tag. They're all block level. Inline level means there is no breaks in between, so your objects, if you use inline level boxes, will show up right next to each other. Examples of these are the IMG tag when we're putting a picture in, the strong tag when we're making text bold, and when we're dealing with links with the ahref tag. There are some potential problems with those, and that is that sometimes things don't show up the way you want them to. So the way that you can force your browser to display things in the way you choose is to use the display property. You set it to either block or inline. And the last thing in our notes was floating a box, and that is just the float command. The value is set to either left or right. It will push the CSS box model to one side or the other, and then it allows room and moves the object below it or above it. Instead of going above or below, it sets it next to that. That's all you need to know for your quiz today. I will tell you that there's a section where you need to list 5 types of border styles. So in our notes we have 8 or 9. You can choose any of those 5. The rest of it you'll be doing a few sample commands and doing some definitions. So good luck. That's posted for you online.